r/relationships. NG95 says, how do I 34 male tell my girlfriend 34 female that we are not ready for kids yet as a couple without discouraging her? Background: my 34 male girlfriend 34 female and I have been together for 3 years and lived together for 2. About 9 months ago, after her younger sister and best friend got pregnant, my girlfriend brought up children and said her biological clock was starting to tick and she had to start planning. It was an honest conversation, and I said that, while I was in a good place professionally, etc., and also wanted children one day, I didn't think we as a couple were ready. I explained that I was worried we were in a bit of a rut, both because we weren't doing new things, and because our intimacy had gone down significantly, not just in terms of sex, though that was a big part of it, but also just in terms of spending quality time together. She said we'd work on it in the coming months. A few months after that, things hadn't changed too much, and we ended up getting into a huge fight after she cancelled a trip we had planned, our first real vacation in over a year, to do something with her friends, while also being too busy to find another weekend. While the second conversation of that fight was much calmer than the first, she asked me point blank if I was happy, and I said that I felt like, since the baby conversation, things had gotten worse, not better, but that I held out hope that things would improve. She sort of ended the conversation abruptly, and then she left on her trip with her friends. Before we could pick it back up, there was a 2-week gap, but she was super busy, so we didn't have a chance to talk. I love my girlfriend, but she isn't great at communication, and, not just in our relationship, but across the board, tends to take things very personally and gets defensive. So she avoids difficult conversations. But when she was back, I noticed she was trying to implement what I had brought up, even as she was avoiding the conversation. I held off on bringing it up. And while the changes weren't completely addressing my concerns, things got a bit better. Last week, my girlfriend brought the baby thing up again. At first, I avoided the subject because I didn't want to discourage her efforts by saying that we are still nowhere where we need to be, but then I realized that I was feeding into the communication issues by doing so. So I said that I felt like we'd made some progress, but that kids are a big deal and that, while I understood her concerns regarding her bio clock, we couldn't rush the decision. I said I'd noticed her trying more, and that I really appreciated it, but that there's still work. She said she appreciated the honesty, but has since gotten a bit distant. How do I bring this, that is, what I need from the relationship and what I think the healthy version of our relationship looks like, up again in a way that doesn't alienate her, but that allows us to speak productively and come up with a plan? Too long. Didn't read. Girlfriend wants to start planning to have kids, but we are not there yet. Our communication issues make it difficult for me to point out where our relationship is still falling short, but I really think we need to have that conversation. Wolf Dilf says, 1. You're absolutely right about holding off on having kids until you're both ready for them, especially when you feel the relationship is having issues. 2. Lack of intimacy, bedroom or otherwise, is a huge problem that only gets worse with time, especially after having kids, and even more so if one person refuses to acknowledge or do anything about it. Huge red flag. 3. The fact that, after having this conversation, she went ahead and canceled your couple trip for a friend trip is another red flag that tells you exactly where her priorities lie. Sort of a you are not giving me a kid, so I won't give you my time/intimacy/sex, or whatever she can use as leverage. 4. The fact that she actually tried to be more intimate after the trip is concerning, because it seems like it was not a decision that came from her heart, but one that was discussed with her friends, and the decision could have been one of two. 1. Her friends told her you were right about not rushing to having kids when the relationship is stagnating. She fully acknowledged what she was doing wrong and is trying to fix it for the sake of the relationship. Lol. 2. She and her friends came to the conclusion that she will just have to play the part until you seem happy enough to have sex with her without protection, and once she got pregnant she could go back to her usual self because she got what she wanted. This is by far the most likely scenario that you'll see happening time and time again. Every time a selfish person doesn't get their way, they'll just do whatever they can until they get it and go back to not caring about anyone else. 5. If you have to wait for someone to change in order to see a future with them, then odds are that you won't have a future with them. The only time change can bring about a future is when you realize changes that you have to do on yourself and actively try to change for the sake of others. Forced change is neither permanent nor. Torontorin says, telling you now that if the communication issues are a problem, they will be a problem after you have kids. Don't know why others are bashing as if you are being manipulative. I think it's completely fair to be 100% on commitment and communication. And if GF is being immature by avoiding the difficult conversations. And I don't think it's a he/she said blunt things that hurts my feelings. I just think communication is the foundation to the relationship. Your judgment if you think you both can fix it. Or cut your losses and find someone else who is easier to understand either of you. Mama Sweet Pickles says, her clock is ticking away. You need to be upfront and honest with her on your stance on having kids, so she can make a decision as to stay with you or leave. Gundam Cha says, marriage counseling? Zelda Volvita says, don't have sex without protection. She may make this decision without your consent. You guys probably shouldn't have kids together. Einker18 says, 34 is already very old for kids. The older someone is, more chances for the kids to be born with some condition, and the harder it is to get pregnant. If you want kids, I would try before 37, because when she hits 40 menopause will come, she won't be able to get pregnant anymore. Do you really want kids? Be honest so she doesn't waste her time. Silver_switch_3109 says, this relationship won't last, and if you have a child, it would collapse very quickly. You are both being less intimate, which means you are both losing attraction to each other. Also, she cannot communicate, and she is immature by cancelling the trip you both planned without consulting you, so she could go on a trip with her friends. r/relationships. Hank Rock says, ex-girlfriend 26 female, asking me 28 male, for help while she recovers from surgery. I broke up with my ex 3 weeks ago. It was by no means an easy decision to make, as I really did love and care for her. However, due to her past trauma from prior to our relationship with abusive exes, it was becoming evident that it was drastically affecting the dynamic of our relationship. I could go into detail about the various arguments we had along the way, but if I could boil it down, I felt she would use her trauma against me in a way during arguments, would overbearingly rely on me for emotional support, and avoid taking responsibility for her own feelings overall, placing the blame on everyone else but herself. She is also very impulsive with money, to the point where she would spend hundreds on stuff for her apartment, but not budget enough for food, and would consistently go back on promises to improve this. This took a huge toll on my mental health, as I'm currently working through some things too, and so I had to make the hard decision to end things, as I had such a strong feeling that if we didn't both go away and work on ourselves individually, that this relationship would have been a total cluster frick in the long run. Despite this, in the aftermath we amicably agreed to stay in touch every now and then once the dust had settled. Was planning on no contact for at least a month or two. Following the breakup, she went on holiday alone to Turkey to get tummy tuck surgery done on a whim, planned after our breakup. See above for impulsive with money. We went no contact a week ago, and today I receive a message from her asking for help when she gets back in 2 days, while she is recovering from the surgery. It's worth mentioning she doesn't really have any friends that could help her instead, and her mother lives 2 hours away and also suffers with sciatica, so would be hard for her to help anyway. I'm now having to make a decision. Where should I say no? This could quite possibly end any amicableness. But should I say yes? It could prolong processing the breakup. And I also have a gut feeling she would use this opportunity to try and amend things and get back together again. Even though I'm set on that not happening. Too long. Didn't read. Broke up with ex-girlfriend who has a lot of trauma 3 weeks ago. She went to Turkey to get tummy tuck surgery done following this. A week after no contact, she messages me asking if I could help her out whilst she recovers. She doesn't really have anyone else. Not sure whether to say no and stay no contact or help and move on once she. Young_ting says. Best to start as you mean to go on. Things will get messy and drag it out. If you get dragged into this, every day you spend interacting with this person is a day lost to find someone compatible who you can build a future with. Snip Snip Decider 9000 says. I might consider helping an ex to the extent I'd help a friend. She probably should have considered aftercare before signing up to get elective surgery though. Trying figure things out 2 days before and turning to an ex isn't good planning. If she just needs a ride home and it doesn't bother you, it's probably fine. If she wants you to move in for a while, that's probably a bad idea. She can get an Uber and food delivered too. If she needs more help THSN, that maybe she can pay for a nurse or something. Again, this is more of a planning issue. Paleontologist Good 28 says. She's pulling you back in when this is the whole reason you left. Cut your losses and let her deal with the consequences of her own actions. Leaker83 says. I have a bad feeling about this. Don't know which country you're in, but in the UK it's pretty well publicized that cosmetic surgery in Turkey isn't a great idea. It's cheap for a reason. You're not getting aftercare included in the price and you'll likely be flying home before you're recovered. If your ex is doing this on impulse and at 26, that's a huge red flag. This, along with weaponizing trauma, feels like she may have some mental health issues. I'd say you can't help and go no contact for the foreseeable future. You're not responsible for her. This isn't like she's broken her leg and needs help. She's chosen to have risky cosmetic surgery without making a plan for recovery. I've known people with similar patterns of behavior, and it seems like you could do without the stress. Aminabunaga says. Don't be friend with your exes. Exes past. Available Bison 9222 says. You don't have to be friends with your ex, particularly if the relationship was damaging your MH. You can say no. She made the decision to have the surgery. It's not your job to facilitate her poor planning. Itoshiat says. This is just manipulative crap. Don't get sucked back in, Opus. You broke up 3 weeks ago and she impulsively scheduled an elective surgery that she now wants your help healing from? Yikes. She has a lot to work on, and I'm not talking physically. You don't need to be friends with her, ick now. It is really probably best you not try to be. Literal in a face says. If it wasn't an elective surgery, I might say you should offer to help or offer to get her help, but lick your tummy tuck? She's just trying to get you back in her life. On a day at a time 08 says. Sorry, no. I don't think that would be productive for the healing I'm trying to do from our breakup. I hope you feel better soon though. She knew you were broken up before she impulsively got surgery. This one is on her. She should have made sure that she had help before going ahead with it. If it ends your amicable status, so be it. You are not required to do this. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.